Before we begin, hit like and subscribe to this channel so you never miss a story like this one. My grandfather's lawyer looked at me across his mahogany desk and said, "Your grandfather left you everything, and he made sure nobody could touch it but you." I didn't know yet that within 24 hours, my own mother would be standing in my apartment with a bottle of champagne, already planning how to spend it. My name is Claire Whitfield, and 3 weeks ago, at my graduate school commencement ceremony, I sat in a plastic folding chair in a cap and gown, sweating under the June sun, and quietly opened an email on my phone that would change my life. It was from Marcus Sullivan, my late grandfather's estate attorney. Subject line: Final trust documentation, confidential. My grandfather, Walter Hastings, had died 4 months earlier. Everyone in my family assumed his estate, worth just over $5 million, would be divided evenly among his 3 children, including my father, and eventually trickle down to grandchildren like some slow-moving inheritance faucet. That's not what happened. Grandpa Walter had never trusted my father with money. He'd watched my dad blow through 2 businesses, mismanage my mother's retirement fund, and lean on family loans that were never repaid. So instead of leaving his fortune to his children, my grandfather left the entire $5 million directly to me, his only grandchild who, in his words in the letter attached to the trust, actually finished what she started and never once asked me for a dime. The money had been sitting in probate for months, and the day of my graduation, it finally cleared. I could have waited. I could have taken a week to think it through. But something in me, some quiet, self-protective instinct I didn't fully understand yet, told me to act immediately. So during the reception, still in my cap and gown, I sat in my car in the parking lot and signed the final paperwork Marcus had sent, transferring the entire inheritance into an irrevocable trust with my name as the sole beneficiary and trustee. No co-signers, no family members listed, just me. I didn't tell anyone, not my roommate, not my boyfriend, not my own parents. I told myself I just wanted one night to process it privately before the questions and opinions and family discussions began. I had no idea how right that instinct would turn out to be. The next morning at 9:47 a.m., someone knocked on my apartment door. I opened it in sweatpants, hair still messy from sleep, and found my mother, Denise, holding a bottle of champagne with a bow taped to it. Behind her stood my father, Gerald, beaming like he'd just won the lottery. And behind him was my younger brother, Tyler, scrolling on his phone, barely looking up. "There she is, our millionaire," my mother squealed, pushing past me into my apartment before I'd even said hello. I stood frozen in the doorway. "How do you—" "Marcus called your father," my mom said, already setting the champagne on my kitchen counter like she owned the place. "Well, technically he called to confirm some family notary paperwork, but your dad put it together. Sweetheart, we are so proud of you." That's when I noticed the folder under my father's arm, and the woman standing awkwardly by my door, dressed in a blazer holding a tablet. "This is Rhonda," my dad said. "She's a realtor, best in the county. We wanted to get moving fast because good properties don't stay on the market long." My stomach dropped. "Moving on what exactly?" I asked slowly. My brother finally looked up from his phone. "The house, Claire." Duh. Mom and Dad's house needs like a total renovation. And there's this place 2 streets over from us. 5 bedrooms, pool, 3-car garage. Perfect for all of us. "All of us," I repeated. "Well, obviously we're not going to make you live alone in some tiny apartment when we can all be under one roof," my mother said, pulling up photos on Rhonda's tablet like this was already decided. "And Tyler needs help with his car situation, and your father's business needs an injection of capital, and I've already spoken to a designer about—" Stop. The word came out sharper than I intended, and the room went quiet. If you believe families shouldn't get to spend money they didn't earn, hit subscribe right now, because this story is about to get a lot more uncomfortable. I haven't agreed to any of this, I said, my voice shaking slightly. I didn't even agree to tell you about this yet. My father's smile faltered. Claire, this is family money. Your grandfather's money was always going to end up helping this family. You're not going to sit on $5 million while your brother's driving a car with 200,000 miles on it. It's not family money, I said. It's my money. Grandpa left it to me, specifically me, not the family, me. My mother's expression shifted from excitement to something colder. You're seriously going to be selfish about this? After everything this family has done for you? I thought about the everything she meant. The truth was, my parents hadn't paid a cent of my college tuition. I'd worked through school and taken loans I was still paying off. My grandfather had quietly helped me with rent during my hardest semester, a fact my parents never knew, and one I now understood he'd kept private for exactly this reason. I already put it in a trust, I said quietly. It's done. It's protected. Nobody can access it but me. The silence that followed was worse than any yelling could have been. You did what? My father said, his face reddening. Without talking to us? Claire, we are your parents. I'm 26, I said. I don't need permission. Rhonda, the realtor, sensing the temperature of the room, quietly excused herself and slipped out the door, tablet clutched to her chest. I almost laughed. Almost. My brother finally set his phone down. So what, you're just going to keep it all for yourself? Selfish much? I worked 2 jobs through undergrad while you lived at home rent-free until you were 24. I snapped, years of quiet resentment suddenly breaking the surface. Grandpa saw that, he saw all of it. That's why he left it to me and not to Dad. My father's face went pale, then furious. Your grandfather was manipulated. He was old. He probably didn't even understand what he was signing. He was sharper than any of us until the day he died, I said. You know that. You're just angry because he saw exactly who you were. My mother sat down slowly on my couch, champagne forgotten on the counter. So that's it? You're cutting us off? Before we get into what happened next, if you've ever had to protect yourself from people who claim to love you, hit that like button. This next part is for you. I'm not cutting anyone off, I said, calmer now. I'm setting a boundary. I'll help when I can, the way I choose to, on my terms. But I am never, ever, going to let anyone hand me a champagne bottle and a house listing before I've even had coffee and assume my money is theirs to spend. My father grabbed the folder off the counter, papers rustling with barely contained rage. You'll regret this. When you need us, don't come crawling back. I've never once crawled to any of you, I said quietly. That's kind of the point. They left 20 minutes later. My mother in tears, my father slamming the door hard enough to rattle the picture frames in my hallway, my brother muttering something about how I'd changed since grad school. The champagne bottle sat unopened on my counter for 3 days before I finally poured it down the sink. What they didn't know, what I found out from Marcus a week later, was that my grandfather had left a private letter for me, sealed separately from the will, to be given to me only after the trust was finalized. In it, he wrote that he'd watched my father ask him for money 4 separate times over 15 years, each time promising it was the last time. He wrote that he'd watched me, at 19 years old, turn down $500 he'd offered because I told him I wanted to earn it myself first. He wrote, "You were always going to be the one who protected what I built, Claire. Not because you're the oldest or the favorite, but because you're the only one who never once asked me for anything." I cried, reading that letter, more than I cried at his funeral. It's been 3 weeks since that morning with the champagne and the realtor. My parents haven't called. My brother texted once, just to ask if I'd come around yet. I didn't respond. I used a portion of the trust to pay off my student loans in full, and I started a small emergency scholarship fund in my grandfather's name for first-generation college students working their way through school. Something I know he would have loved far more than a 5-bedroom house with a pool. I don't know if my family will ever forgive me for protecting what was mine, but I know my grandfather would be proud that I did. If this story moved you, hit like, subscribe for more stories like this one, and tell me in the comments, would you have signed the trust before telling your family or after?